Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Shattered Illusions. Leo Walcott stood in his kitchen, surrounded by the scent of roasting turkey and cinnamon, meticulously preparing Christmas dinner for his family. At 52, Leo had built a successful construction company from nothing, working 80-hour weeks for decades. His weathered hands told the story of a man who had climbed his way up from being a site laborer to owning Walcott Construction, one of the most respected firms in Colorado. The sprawling mountain home where they now lived represented everything he'd sacrificed for. The long absences from home, the missed birthday parties, the postponed vacations. But it had all been worth it to give Dana, his wife of 27 years, and their children the life they deserved. Leo wiped his hands on his apron and walked to the window, hoping to catch a glimpse of his family enjoying the snow-covered backyard. The renovation of their vacation cabin had been a point of tension lately. Dana insisted on using Riviera designs, a pretentious outfit charging triple what Leo knew the work was worth. He'd eventually relented, as he always did when it came to making Dana happy. When he cracked open the window to let in some crisp mountain air, voices floated up from the stone patio below. "I can't believe we're spending Christmas with that loser." The unmistakable voice of Tyler, his 24-year-old son, cut through the silent winter air. Leo froze, his hand still on the window latch. "Just until he pays for the house renovation." Dana's voice was casual, as if discussing the weather. "Vincent has already drawn up the plans for our place. Once Leo signs off on the final payment for the cabin, I'll have everything I need." Leo's stomach tightened. Vincent Riviera. The smooth-talking contractor Dana had insisted on hiring despite Leo's objections. "I'm just waiting for him to pay my college fees, then I'm gone," added Brooke, his 20-year-old daughter. "I mean, it's the least he can do after being absent most of our lives." Leo's knuckles whitened around the window frame as Dana laughed. "Well, he was always better at making money than being a father or husband. At least we can use that to our advantage." "When are you telling him about the divorce?" Tyler asked. "After the renovation is complete," Dana replied. "Vincent and I need to secure the financing for our new building first. That idiot believes I'm redecorating our cabin for..." Her mocking tone twisted like a knife in Leo's chest. "God, Mom, you're ruthless," Brooke giggled. "I love it. Life lesson, sweetie. Take what you deserve," Dana responded. Leo was always too busy building his precious company to notice what was happening in his own home. Leo gently closed the window, his hands trembling not from anger, but from a deep, overwhelming sense of clarity. For years, he'd attributed the distance in his marriage to his work schedule, blamed himself for the coldness in his children's eyes. He'd compensated by giving them everything money could buy, believing that one day they would understand his sacrifices were all for them. He stared at the feast he'd spent all day preparing. Dana's favorite cornbread stuffing, Tyler's preferred maple-glazed Brussels sprouts, Brooke's beloved sweet potato casserole. Hours of effort to please a family that saw him as nothing more than an ATM. When the back door slid open and his family stomped in, shaking off snow and laughing, Leo had already removed his apron and fixed a warm smile on his face. "Perfect timing," he said, his voice steady despite the hurricane raging inside him. "Dinner's almost ready." Dana approached, giving him the perfunctory cheek kiss that had replaced passionate embraces years ago. "Smells wonderful, honey. You've outdone yourself." Leo nodded, studying her face. How had he missed the calculation behind those blue eyes? The slight disdain in her smile? "I'd do anything for my family," he replied, the words tasting like ash on his tongue. That night, as his family devoured the meal he'd prepared, complimenting his cooking while exchanging knowing glances, Leo played his role perfectly. He laughed at Tyler's stories, asked about Brooke's classes, and discussed renovation details with Dana. Not once did his smile falter. But behind that perfect smile, Leo Walcott's heart had hardened to stone, and a plan was already taking form. Chapter 2, Gathering Storm. 3 days after Christmas, Leo sat in his downtown office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. The holiday festivities had continued with the same facade, present opening, family photos, board games, all while Leo maintained his performance as the devoted, oblivious husband and father. But while his family believed him ignorant to their schemes, Leo had been busy. His secretary, Maureen, knocked on his door, interrupting his thoughts. "Mr. Burnham is here to see you," she announced. Leo nodded. "Send him in." Roy Burnham had been Leo's friend since high school and now ran one of the best private investigation firms in the state. An ex-cop with a network spanning from police departments to courthouse clerks, Roy was exactly who Leo needed. "You look like hell," Roy said by way of greeting, dropping into the chair across from Leo. "Feel worse," Leo replied. "Thanks for coming on short notice. 25 years of friendship. Short notice is my specialty." Roy leaned forward. "What's going on?" Leo recounted what he'd overheard, his voice devoid of emotion. "I need to know everything. How long the affair's been going on, what they're planning, where my money's been going." Roy whistled low. "Dana and the contractor? Man, I'm sorry. Don't be. Just help me understand what I'm dealing with." "You want me to dig into your kids, too?" Roy asked cautiously. Leo's jaw tightened. "Everything. Everyone." Over the next week, Roy's findings painted a clearer picture than Leo had anticipated. Vincent Riviera wasn't just Dana's lover. He was a struggling contractor with massive debt who'd been systematically overcharging for the cabin renovation, splitting the difference with Dana. Bank statements showed Dana had been funneling money from their joint accounts into a private one for over 2 years. The most painful discoveries involved his children. Brooke, who'd tearfully thanked him for covering her college expenses, had dropped out last semester but continued cashing his tuition checks. Tyler, who worked at Leo's company in a management position, had been bad-mouthing him to clients and employees alike, positioning himself to take over key relationships when the old man finally gets pushed out. As January progressed, Leo compiled evidence without confrontation. He recorded conversations where Dana discussed her plans with Vincent on calls made from the cabin. He documented the fraudulent billing from Riviera Designs. He collected timestamps from security cameras showing Vincent's truck at their house during Leo's business trips. On a frigid morning in late January, Leo met with Howard Pierce, his attorney. "This is thorough," Howard said, reviewing the files. "More than enough for a divorce that wouldn't leave Dana with much." "A divorce is just the beginning," Leo replied. "I want everything prepared, but don't file anything yet. There's more at stake than my marriage." Howard studied his client carefully. "Leo, I understand you're hurt, but..." "This isn't about hurt," Leo interrupted. "This is about justice. They've been plotting to take everything I've built. I'm simply going to make sure they face consequences." "What exactly are you planning?" Leo smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. "First, I need to understand my options, legally and otherwise." Howard sighed. "I'll prepare everything for when you're ready to pull the trigger. But as your friend, I'm concerned about where this is heading." "Don't be," Leo said, rising from his chair. "For the first time in years, I know exactly where I'm going." That night, Leo participated in a video call with Dana, Vincent, and the cabin's interior designer. As Vincent showcased expensive fixtures and Dana exclaimed over marble countertops, Leo nodded agreeably. "Whatever you think best, dear," he said when Dana suggested Italian tiles at 3 times the market rate. "I trust your judgment completely." After the call, Leo received a text from Dana. "You're being unusually agreeable about the costs." "Everything okay?" Leo typed back. "Just want you to be happy. You deserve the best." He set down his phone and turned to the whiteboard in his home office where he'd mapped out every aspect of his retaliation. Phase 1 was nearly complete: investigation and documentation. Now it was time for Phase 2, strategic positioning. Leo picked up his phone again and dialed his sister Grace, the only family member he still trusted. "I need your help," he said when she answered, "and it has to stay between us." Chapter 3: The Architect's Blueprint. By early February, Leo had refined his plan to mathematical precision. As an expert contractor who'd built his business understanding structural integrity, he knew that to demolish something effectively, you needed to identify and target the critical supports. For his family's betrayal, those supports were clear: money, reputation, and future prospects. At his sister Grace's apartment across town, Leo spread documents across her dining table. "You're sure about this?" Grace asked, examining the papers. "It's ruthless, Leo. They've been ruthless for years," he replied. "I'm just finally playing the same game." Grace, a financial advisor who'd warned Leo about joint accounts with Dana years ago, shook her head. "Dana never deserved you. But your kids, my kids who laugh about bleeding me dry, who've been manipulating me their entire adult lives." Leo's voice remained calm, despite the subject matter. "They made their choice when they decided I was nothing but a wallet." The blueprint Leo had designed was comprehensive. For Dana and Vincent, he discovered their plan to launch a luxury design firm using the money from Leo's final payment for the cabin renovation, a payment that would never come. For Tyler, who'd been undermining him and the company while living rent-free in a condo Leo owned, there would be professional consequences. For Brooke, who'd lied about her education while enjoying Leo's financial support, there would be a harsh lesson in self-reliance. Leo had already begun implementing preliminary steps. He'd quietly transferred his personal assets to new accounts. He'd scheduled meetings with key clients to secure their loyalty. He documented every fraudulent invoice from Vincent's company to build a case for criminal charges if necessary. "The timing is crucial," Leo explained to Grace. "Dana plans to ask for the divorce after I make the final payment for the renovation. Vincent needs that money to clear his debt before they launch their business. Tyler's waiting for the right moment to steal my client relationships. Brooke needs next semester's tuition payment. And you're going to pull the rug out from under all of them simultaneously," Grace concluded. "Exactly. But first, I need to give them enough rope." The next day, Leo called a family meeting at their main residence, claiming he wanted to discuss some exciting company developments. When everyone had gathered in the living room, Leo smiled warmly. "I've been doing some thinking," he announced, "about priorities." Dana raised an eyebrow. "What kind of priorities?" "Family ones," Leo replied. "I've been so focused on work that I've neglected what really matters." He looked at each family member in turn. "That's going to change. I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations at Walcott Construction." Tyler sat up straighter. "Really? Who's going to take over?" Leo noticed the barely concealed eagerness in his son's voice. "I'm promoting Russell to interim CEO while I figure things out. But I'll be looking to the future of the company leadership soon." Tyler's face fell. Russell Barnes had been Leo's right-hand man for 15 years and was fiercely loyal. "But that's not all," Leo continued. "Dana, I want to accelerate the cabin renovation. Whatever it takes, double the crew, premium materials, overtime hours. Let's get it done by the end of next month instead of summer." Dana exchanged a quick glance with Tyler. "That's generous, Leo, but it will be expensive. Money's not an issue. I've realized life is too short to wait for the things we want." Leo turned to Brooke. "And sweetheart, I've been thinking about your education. Instead of just paying tuition, I want to set up a trust fund for you. Something substantial that gives you security." Brooke's eyes widened. "Dad, that's wow. Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Leo smiled. "I need to meet with Howard to structure it properly. We'll get it done next month, along with some other financial planning I've been postponing." As his family reacted with barely disguised delight, Leo watched them carefully. Dana was already mentally calculating additional funds she could divert to her secret account. Tyler was contemplating how to position himself for the company leadership role. Brooke was thinking about all the things she could buy with trust fund money. None of them suspected that Leo was setting a deadline for their schemes, a deadline they would miss catastrophically. After the meeting, Dana approached Leo in the kitchen. "This is a wonderful change, Leo. What brought on?" Leo took her hand, the touch making his skin crawl. "I've just been reflecting on what matters. Making sure everyone in this family gets exactly what they deserve." Dana smiled and kissed his cheek. "I've always known you'd come around eventually." "Better late than never," Leo replied, squeezing her hand gently while imagining the moment that smile would shatter. In his home office that night, Leo made a call to Roy Burnham. "I need more surveillance on Vincent Riviera. Specifically, I need to know who else he's been working with." "You think the contractor's got other schemes going?" "Everyone has patterns," Leo replied. "I doubt Dana is his first or only target." As February progressed, Leo played the role of the distracted, generous husband and father perfectly. He approved outrageous expenses for the cabin renovation. He hinted to Tyler about future leadership opportunities. He discussed trust fund details with Brooke. All the while, he was methodically cutting the supports out from under them, one by one, without any of them noticing the foundation was already crumbling. Chapter 4. Smoke and Mirrors. By the third week of February, Leo's plan was accelerating like a perfectly timed demolition sequence. Vincent Riviera had doubled his crew at the cabin, believing the rush timeline meant even more opportunity to pad invoices. Dana had increased her shopping sprees, buying expensive furniture for what she thought would soon be her new life with Vincent. Tyler had begun quietly meeting with Leo's largest clients, positioning himself as the company's future. Brooke had already picked out a luxury apartment she planned to lease with her trust fund money. While maintaining his mask of oblivion, Leo was systematically dismantling the world they took for granted. His first major move targeted the cabin renovation itself. After reviewing the fraudulent billing with his own construction experts, Leo had compiled evidence of code violations, safety hazards, and permit irregularities, all traceable to Vincent's supervision. On a blustery Tuesday morning, Leo arranged to meet the county building inspector, Frank Delgado, at the cabin site. Vincent wasn't scheduled to be there, which was precisely why Leo had chosen this time. "Thanks for coming out on short notice, Frank," Leo said, shaking the inspector's hand. "For you, Leo? Anytime. You've always run clean projects." Frank looked around at the half-finished interior. "So what's the concern here?" "I've been too hands-off on this one," Leo admitted, guiding Frank through the cabin. "My wife wanted to use her preferred contractor, but something doesn't feel right." For the next hour, Leo casually pointed out issues his experts had identified. Electrical wiring that didn't meet code, support beams that had been compromised to accommodate decorative elements, plumbing that would inevitably leak. Frank's expression grew increasingly grim. This is dangerous work, Leo. Honestly, I'm surprised. This isn't like your usual projects. That's why I asked you personally," Leo replied. "I need someone I trust to give me an honest assessment." By the time the inspection concluded, Frank had documented enough violations to halt construction immediately. "I'll have to issue a stop work order," he said apologetically. "And whoever supervised this will face significant fines." "Understand," Leo nodded solemnly. "Safety has to come first." When Vincent arrived at the cabin an hour later, he found it locked with official county notices plastered across the door. His frantic call to Dana went straight to voicemail, because Leo had taken her to an extended lunch at her favorite restaurant, making sure they were seen by several of Dana's social circle friends. Leo's phone buzzed with a text from Roy. V received stop order. Attempting to contact D. Proceeding to phase 2. Leo replied with a simple yes, before turning his attention back to Dana, who was describing her plans for summer entertaining at the newly renovated cabin. "It'll be perfect for hosting your business associates," she said, sipping her third glass of wine. "I'm thinking of a 4th of July gathering to showcase the finished space." "That sounds wonderful," Leo replied, raising his water glass in a toast. To new beginnings. While Dana and Leo were dining, Roy Burnham was meeting with 3 other homeowners who had hired Vincent Riviera for renovations over the past 2 years. Each had experienced similar patterns: ballooning costs, questionable workmanship, and in 2 cases, inappropriate relationships with their spouses. Roy presented them with evidence Leo had compiled, suggesting they might have grounds for a class action lawsuit. By the time Leo dropped Dana at her afternoon spa appointment, Vincent had left 17 increasingly panicked messages on her phone. Leo's next move targeted Tyler. He'd scheduled a company leadership meeting for that afternoon, one that Tyler believed was his opportunity to showcase his readiness for greater responsibility. When Leo arrived at Walcott Construction headquarters, Russell Barnes was waiting in his office. "Everything's set?" Leo asked. Russell nodded. "Financial audit results are ready for presentation. Board members have been briefed." And Tyler, preparing his leadership vision presentation as requested. He's been telling everyone this is his big moment. Leo straightened his tie. "Let's not keep them waiting." The boardroom fell silent as Leo entered, followed by Russell and the company's financial officer, Patricia Mills. Tyler sat near the head of the table, notes spread before him, a confident smile on his face. "Thank you all for being here," Leo began. "Before we discuss future leadership directions, Patricia has an important update." Patricia distributed folders to everyone present. "We've completed our quarterly financial audit, with special attention to client account management, as requested by Leo." Tyler's smile faltered slightly as he opened his folder. "We've identified several concerning patterns," Patricia continued. "Specifically, unauthorized discounts offered to premium clients, questionable entertainment expenses, and most concerning, attempts to redirect client communications away from standard company channels." The board members murmured as they reviewed the evidence that all pointed to Tyler's activities over the past 6 months. "These actions have cost the company approximately $470,000 in revenue," Patricia concluded, "and potentially damaged relationships with our top 5 clients." All eyes turned to Tyler, whose face had drained of color. "Would you care to address these findings before you present your leadership vision?" Leo asked calmly. Tyler stumbled through denials and excuses, but the documentation was irrefutable. Leo had ensured that. By meeting's end, Tyler's position at the company was suspended pending further investigation, and his dreams of ascension were in ruins. As the board members filed out, Leo stopped Russell. "Make sure security escorts him from the building. Change his access codes immediately." "Already arranged," Russell confirmed. While Tyler was being escorted out of the building, Brooke was having a crisis of her own. She'd gone to finalize paperwork on her new apartment, only to discover her proof of future income, the trust fund Leo had promised, couldn't be verified because it didn't yet exist. The leasing office had apologetically informed her that without verification, they would need to offer the unit to another applicant. Her panic call to Leo went to voicemail. He was busy meeting with Howard Pierce to finalize the last and most critical phase of his plan. "The timing has to be perfect," Leo explained, reviewing documents Howard had prepared. "Dana will be getting calls from Vincent any minute now. Tyler will be looking to her for support. Brooke will be demanding answers about the trust fund. I need everything ready before I walk through that front door tonight." Howard passed him a final set of papers. "It's all here. But Leo, once you start this, there's no going back." Leo's expression remained impassive. "There was no going back the moment I heard them talking in the backyard at Christmas." That evening, Leo arrived home to chaos. Dana was pacing the living room. Phone pressed her ear, while Tyler gesticulated wildly and Brooke sat crying on the couch. "Oh, thank God," Dana exclaimed when she saw him. "Leo, everything's falling apart. Vincent says there's some problem with the cabin permits. Tyler's been suspended, and Brooke's apartment fell through." Leo set down his briefcase calmly. "That does sound serious. Let's discuss it over dinner. I've had quite a day myself." "Dinner?" Tyler almost shouted. "Dad, my career is imploding, and no one cares about my apartment." Brooke added through tears. Leo moved to the bar cart and poured himself a rare whiskey. "I care very much about all of these situations. That's why I'd like to discuss them properly. Dana, I believe we still have that beef bourguignon in the fridge from your dinner party planning. Let's heat that up." His unnerving calm cut through their panic. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Dana's face as she studied her husband's expression. "Leo," she said carefully, "what's going on?" He took a slow sip of whiskey, savoring the moment. "Let's just say I've been doing some renovation work of my own. And unlike Vincent's projects, mine is right on schedule." Chapter 5. The Spider's Web. The next morning found the Walcott family in stunned silence at the breakfast table. The previous night's revelations had landed like precision strikes. Leo had calmly informed them that he knew everything. The affair, the financial schemes, the betrayals large and small. He had laid out just enough evidence to make it clear this wasn't a bluff, but had withheld the full extent of his knowledge and plans. "I have a meeting with Howard at 10, Leo announced, buttering his toast as if discussing the weather. "Dana, I think you should come along." Dana, still wearing yesterday's clothes after a night of frantic calls with Vincent, looked up with red-rimmed eyes. For what purpose? To discuss terms, of course. Leo's tone remained conversational. You wanted a divorce. I'm simply expediting the process. Tyler, who had spent the night on the couch after discovering his key card no longer worked at his condo, another property owned by Leo, slammed his fist on the table. This is bullshit. You can't just cut us off like this. Leo regarded his son with cool detachment. I've cut nothing off yet. That's what today's meeting is about. Establishing exactly what everyone deserves going forward. Brooke, uncharacteristically quiet, finally spoke. Dad, I know I messed up about school, but... Yes, you did, Leo interrupted. You lied about your education while taking my money. The question now is, what happens next? The meeting at Howard Pierce's office revealed the first major strand of Leo's web. Howard presented Dana with divorce papers that included terms so punitive she gasped upon reading them. This is ridiculous, she sputtered. No judge would approve this settlement. Howard slid another document across the table. Perhaps this will clarify the situation. It was a detailed accounting of every fraudulent charge associated with the cabin renovation, complete with evidence of Dana's knowledge and participation in the scheme. Attached was a preliminary complaint ready to be filed with the district attorney. Fraud charges would complicate a divorce settlement, Leo noted calmly. Not to mention Vincent's already precarious legal situation with the building code violations and a class action suit from his other clients. Dana's face drained of color. Class action? What are you talking about? I'm not the first husband Vincent has targeted through his business, Leo explained, though I may be the last. For other families have already agreed to join the lawsuit Roy Burnham is coordinating. Howard cleared his throat. Mrs. Walcott, to be clear, these divorce terms are actually quite generous considering the circumstances. Mr. Walcott is offering to withhold the criminal complaints in exchange for your cooperation. Dana looked at Leo with a mixture of fear and dawning respect. You've been planning this for months. Weeks, actually, Leo corrected. I'm efficient when motivated. While Dana was confronting the ruins of her future with Vincent, Tyler was facing his own professional extinction. Leo had instructed Russell to schedule exit interviews with every client Tyler had contacted, officially to ensure continuity of service, but actually to document Tyler's attempted poaching. By noon, Russell had called with the results. 3 clients had confirmed Tyler had suggested they might follow him if he branched out on his own soon. Combined with the financial improprieties already documented, it was more than enough to justify termination with cause and potential legal action. Brooke's situation unfolded differently. When she returned from a coffee run, she found her belongings from her off-campus apartment stacked neatly in the guest room. Your roommate was quite accommodating once I explained the situation, Leo told her as she stared at the boxes. Apparently, she's been covering your portion of utilities for months. Where am I supposed to go? Brooke demanded. That's entirely up to you, Leo replied. But if you stay here, there will be new rules, including actual proof of enrollment before any educational expenses are paid. The following days brought a cascade of collapsing dominoes. Vincent Riviera's contracting license was suspended pending investigation. His crew, unpaid for 2 weeks, had walked off the job. The cabin stood abandoned, the stop work order still plastered across its door. Dana, who had spent years cultivating her social standing, found herself suddenly toxic among her friends as rumors of fraud and infidelity spread. Her calls went unreturned, lunch invitations dried up, and her position on 2 charitable boards was quietly not renewed. Tyler discovered that his industry reputation was in tatters. Every potential employer in his contact list had somehow heard about his actions at Walcott Construction. His attempts to reach former colleagues were met with awkward rejections. Brooke, facing the reality of her terminated credit cards and frozen bank accounts, had reluctantly applied for work at a local coffee shop, the only place that would hire her without experience. Through it all, Leo maintained his routine with machine-like precision. He went to work, came home, ate dinner alone in his study, and slept in the guest bedroom. He answered direct questions with minimal responses and offered no reaction to tears, accusations, or promises to change. It was Grace who finally confronted him about the emotional toll of his revenge. She found him at his office late one evening, meticulously reviewing company finances. "You've destroyed them," she said without preamble. "Mission accomplished." Leo didn't look up from his computer. "Not yet." Grace sighed, dropping into the chair across from his desk. "Leo, I supported you because what they did was inexcusable. But this scorched earth campaign, it's changing you. It's revealing me," Leo corrected, "the man they thought they could use and discard. And what happens when it's over? When you've taken everything from them?" Leo finally met his sister's concerned gaze. "I start over, without the illusions that have defined my life for nearly 3 decades. Grace studied her brother's face, searching for any crack in his resolve. "They're still your family." "No," Leo said simply. "They're not. They made that decision, not me." The next morning, Leo received a call from Howard. Dana had agreed to the divorce terms, a settlement that left her with just enough to start over, but none of the luxury she had grown accustomed to. Most importantly, she would provide written testimony about Vincent's fraudulent business practices in exchange for immunity from prosecution. "She's broken," Howard said. "They all are." "Is that enough?" Leo glanced at his calendar, where a red circle marked a date the following week. "Not quite. There's still the matter of consequences. Haven't they suffered enough?" "Suffering isn't the point," Leo replied. "Justice is, and justice requires full accountability." 2 days later, Vincent Riviera was arrested on multiple charges of fraud, permit violations, and theft by deception. The class action lawsuit had spurred the district attorney to take action, particularly after Dana's detailed statement arrived on his desk. The local business journal ran a front-page story about the arrest, including mentions of Walcott Construction as the company that exposed the scheme. Leo had the article framed and placed on his desk, not for vanity, but as a reminder of the price of trust. Tyler, desperate and unemployable, finally approached Leo at the office, bypassing security by claiming a family emergency. "Dad, you've made your point," he pleaded. "I screwed up. I've learned my lesson." Leo regarded his son impassively. "Have you? What lesson would that be?" "That I can't take you for granted. That loyalty matters. Interesting that your first loyalty lesson comes with your back against the wall." Leo opened his desk drawer and removed a single sheet of paper. "Here's what I'm offering. A one-way ticket to Seattle and enough money for 3 months' rent. My colleague Thomas Blake will give you an entry-level position at his construction firm. No family connection, no special treatment." Tyler stared at the paper. "You're exiling me? I'm offering you what you've never had, a chance to succeed or fail on your own merits." After Tyler left, clutching the ticket like a lifeline, Leo received a text from Roy Burnham. "Target has taken a bait. Proceeding as discussed." Leo allowed himself a small smile. The final phase was set in motion. Chapter 6, Checkmate. As March arrived with unexpected warmth, Leo executed the final moves in his carefully orchestrated plan. The date circled in red on his calendar was March 7th, what would have been his 28th wedding anniversary with Dana. It was also, not coincidentally, the date Vincent Riviera was scheduled for his preliminary hearing. At Leo's instruction, Howard had arranged for Dana's divorce settlement to be finalized that same day, creating a symmetry that appealed to Leo's sense of poetic justice. What should have been a celebration of partnership would instead mark its official dissolution and the beginning of Vincent's legal nightmare. But Leo's true masterstroke remained hidden, waiting to be revealed. On the evening of March 6th, Dana approached Leo in his study. The past weeks had transformed her, designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and sweaters, her carefully maintained highlights growing out to show gray roots. Her posture, once proud and entitled, now curved with the weight of her new reality. "Can we talk?" she asked, hovering in the doorway. Leo closed his laptop. "Of course. After tomorrow, it's over between us. Legally, at least." Dana twisted her wedding ring, the only piece of jewelry she'd kept. "I just want to understand why you're doing this. You could have divorced me, taken the kid's side, maintained some kind of family relationship. Instead, you've systematically destroyed everything." "Not everything," Leo corrected. just the illusion that actions don't have consequences. Is that what this elaborate revenge is about? Teaching us a lesson? Leo studied his soon-to-be ex-wife's face. Tell me, Dana, if I hadn't overheard your conversation at Christmas, what would have happened? You would have taken half my assets in the divorce, launched your business with Vincent using money from fraudulent renovation charges, and left me with what? Occasional holiday visits from children who see me as nothing but financial support. Dana looked away. It wasn't always like that. We did love you once. Perhaps. But love without respect isn't love at all. Leo stood, indicating the conversation was over. Tomorrow closes this chapter for all of us. I suggest you prepare for your court appearance. The next morning, Dana left early for her meeting with Howard and the judge. Tyler had already departed for Seattle 3 days earlier, his farewell consisting of a terse nod and mumbled thanks for the second chance. Brooke remained in the house, working evening shifts at the coffee shop and taking online classes to complete her degree, a condition Leo had established for her continued residence. Leo arrived at the courthouse just as Vincent's hearing was scheduled to begin. He slipped in the back row, unnoticed by Vincent or his attorney. The proceedings were brief and devastating for the contractor. Based on the evidence Leo had provided, bail was set at an amount Vincent couldn't possibly afford. He would remain in custody until trial. As Vincent was led away in handcuffs, his eyes finally locked with Leo's. The momentary flash of hatred gave Leo a grim satisfaction. Recognition. That was what he wanted from all of them. Recognition of who he truly was, and what they had foolishly discarded. From the courthouse, Leo drove to the offices of the Colorado Business Journal, where he had arranged an interview weeks earlier. The reporter, Alicia Martinez, had been pursuing the story of Vincent Riviera's fraud case and was eager to hear from the businessman who had exposed it. Mr. Walcott, thank you for speaking with me, she began once they were seated in a conference room. Your company has been at the center of uncovering what appears to be a significant fraud operation. Was this something you suspected for some time? Leo's response was measured. Walcott Construction has always prioritized integrity. When we discovered discrepancies in the contracting work being done on my personal property, we had an obligation to investigate. And the investigation led to multiple victims coming forward. Yes, though I can't comment on ongoing legal matters. Alicia checked her notes. Sources tell me that Vincent Riviera was personally involved with some of his clients' spouses, including your wife. Would you care to comment on that aspect of the case? My private life remains private, Leo replied smoothly. But I will say that Mr. Riviera's business practices created a breach of trust on multiple levels. That breach is now being addressed through proper legal channels. The interview continued for 20 minutes, with Leo carefully steering the conversation toward his company's commitment to ethical business practices and away from personal details. What he didn't tell Alicia was that this interview was merely setting the stage for what would follow. As Leo left the newspaper offices, his phone buzzed with a text from Howard. Divorce finalized. Settlement executed per instructions. Phase 1 of the day's plan was complete. Dana was now officially his ex-wife, with a settlement that provided basic living expenses, but none of the luxury she had anticipated from her future with Vincent. The cabin property, which had been in Leo's family for generations, remained solely in his name, a non-negotiable term he had insisted upon. For Phase 2, Leo drove to Walcott Construction headquarters, where Russell Barnes was waiting with the company's communications team. Everything ready? Leo asked as he entered the conference room. Russell nodded. Press release is drafted per your instructions. Board members have been notified of the announcement. And the other matter? Completed this morning. Legal has confirmed we're clear to proceed. Leo reviewed the press release one final time before approving it. At precisely 2 p.m., Walcott Construction announced a significant organizational restructuring. Russell Barnes was being promoted to CEO, effectively immediately. Leo would transition to chairman of the board, focusing on strategic expansion. The release also announced the establishment of the Walcott Integrity Scholarship, a program that would fully fund construction management degrees for 5 students annually, with a focus on ethical business practices. What the press release didn't mention was that simultaneously, Leo had transferred majority ownership of Walcott Construction to a newly created trust. The trust beneficiaries included Russell Barnes, several long-term employees, and charitable organizations focused on building affordable housing. Notably absent from the beneficiaries list were any members of Leo's family. The final phase began at 7 p.m. with a dinner Leo had arranged at Aspen Grove, an exclusive restaurant overlooking the city. He had invited Grace, Howard, Roy, and Russell, the four people who had helped him execute his plan and whom he now considered his true family. As they were seated at the best table in the house, Leo raised his glass in a toast. To new beginnings. The dinner conversation flowed easily, touching on future business plans, Russell's vision for the company, and Howard's recent courtroom victories. It wasn't until dessert was served that Leo addressed the subject they had been tactfully avoiding. I know you've all been concerned about my focus on resolving the family situation, he began. Grace reached over to squeeze his hand. We've been concerned about you, Leo, not your decisions. Fair enough. But I want you all to know that, as of today, that chapter is closed. Leo's voice held a finality that brooked no argument. Dana has her settlement. Tyler has his fresh start. Brooke has her second chance under clear conditions. Vincent has his consequences. Justice has been served. Howard studied his client carefully. And what about you, Leo? What do you have? Leo smiled, the first genuine smile any of them had seen from him in months. Freedom, the truth, and the knowledge that I've rebuilt my life on a foundation that won't crumble. As they were preparing to leave, Leo's phone chimed with a news alert. The Colorado Business Journal had published their story about Vincent Riviera's case, featuring quotes from Leo's interview. The article painted Walcott Construction as a champion of business ethics and mentioned the new scholarship program as evidence of Leo's commitment to fostering integrity in the industry. Roy glanced at the article on Leo's phone. Perfect timing. Your reputation is not just intact, it's enhanced. Reputation is just what others think of you, Leo replied. I'm more concerned with what I know about myself. The evening concluded with firm handshakes and promises to meet again soon. As Leo drove home through the quiet streets, he felt a weight lifting, not just the burden of betrayal, but the exhaustion of maintaining appearances for people who had never truly seen him. When he arrived home, he found Brooke sitting at the kitchen island, textbooks spread around her laptop. She looked up nervously as he entered. How was your dinner? She asked, her tone cautious. They had established an uneasy truce over the past weeks, built on her compliance with his terms and his willingness to give her one last chance. Productive, Leo replied, setting down his keys. How's the coursework coming? It's challenging, but I'm managing a B+ average so far. Leo nodded. Good. Consequences teach us what we're capable of when necessity removes our easier options. Brooke hesitated, then closed her laptop. Dad, I know I can never undo what I did, but I want you to know I'm grateful for this chance. And I'm sorry, truly sorry, for how I treated you. Leo studied his daughter's face, searching for the calculation he had grown accustomed to finding there. Instead, he saw only exhaustion and genuine remorse. Actions speak louder than words, Brooke. We'll see what your actions say in the coming months. As he climbed the stairs to his bedroom, the master suite he had reclaimed after Dana moved to a small apartment across town, Leo reflected on his response to Brooke. It wasn't forgiveness he was offering her, or Tyler, or certainly not Dana and Vincent. It was simply clarity. They would never again mistake his generosity for weakness, his love for blindness, or his patience for permission to betray. In his bedroom, Leo opened his safe and removed a small velvet pouch. Inside was his wedding ring, which he had continued wearing until today as part of his performance. He placed it in a small wooden box along with the family photo that had sat on his desk for years. Then he closed the box and returned it to the safe. That chapter was indeed closed. Whatever came next would be written entirely on his terms. Chapter 7. The Final Stroke. 6 months after the fateful Christmas dinner, Leo Walcott's life had transformed into something entirely his own. Walcott Construction, under Russell's day-to-day leadership, was thriving with a reputation for integrity that brought in premium clients. Leo's role as chairman allowed him time to pursue personal projects, including the restoration of the cabin, properly this time, with contractors he trusted. On a crisp September morning, Leo sat on the cabin's newly rebuilt deck, coffee in hand, reviewing architectural plans for an expansion. His phone buzzed with a text from Grace. "Don't forget dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Howard's bringing someone he wants you to meet." Leo smiled. His sister's attempts at matchmaking had become a running joke between them. Since the divorce, he'd shown little interest in dating, focusing instead on rebuilding his life and relationships with people who genuinely valued him. As he was about to respond, another message arrived, this one from an unknown number. "Need to speak with you urgently. Financial matter. Vincent Riviera." Leo's jaw tightened. Vincent had been released on bail after 3 months in county lockup, awaiting trial on multiple fraud charges. The class action lawsuit against him had grown to include 7 families, and his contracting license had been permanently revoked. According to Roy's sources, Vincent was nearly bankrupt from legal fees. After brief consideration, Leo responded, "Walcott Construction Offices. 2 p.m. today. Security will escort you." Whatever Vincent wanted, Leo preferred to handle it on his own territory, with witnesses and security nearby. He had no illusion that Vincent might have come to some moral awakening during his time in jail. At precisely 2 p.m., security escorted a dramatically changed Vincent Riviera into Leo's office. Gone were the designer clothes and confident swagger. The man who stood before Leo looked haggard, his once stylish hair now unkempt, his complexion sallow from months of stress. "Thank you for seeing me," Vincent said, his voice lacking its former smooth charm. Leo gestured to the chair across from his desk. "You mentioned a financial matter." Vincent sat, his eyes darting around the office before settling on Leo. "I'll get right to the point. I know you're behind everything that's happened to me. The building inspector, the class action, the license revocation, all of it. I'm behind the discovery of your fraud." Leo corrected. "The consequences are your own doing. Call it what you want." Vincent leaned forward. "My trial is next month, and my lawyer says I'm looking at minimum 5 years unless I can make restitution to the victims." Leo raised an eyebrow. "And this concerns me how? I have information you might find valuable." "About Dana." A cold smile touched Leo's lips. "There's nothing about Dana I need or want to know. Even if she's been seeing someone new, someone close to you." Leo's expression remained impassive, though his interest was reluctantly piqued. "Again, not my concern." Vincent's desperate eyes searched for any leverage. "It's Russell Barnes, your trusted CEO. They've been meeting for weeks." For a moment, silence filled the office as Leo processed this information. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a genuine, amused laugh that seemed to startle Vincent. "Vincent, I'm aware of their meetings. Russell informed me immediately when Dana contacted him, supposedly to discuss settling our differences for the sake of the children. Every meeting has been documented and reported to me in detail." Vincent's face fell as his last bargaining chip evaporated. "What you don't know," Leo continued, "is that Dana's transparent attempt to get close to my company through Russell is exactly what I anticipated. In fact, it's why I promoted him, because I knew he couldn't be manipulated." "So you know everything," Vincent said, defeated. "Not everything, but enough." Leo stood, indicating the meeting was concluding. "If you came here hoping to exchange information for financial help, you've wasted both our time." Vincent remained seated, desperation evident in his posture. "My parents' house is being seized to cover legal fees. I have nothing left. You have exactly what your actions have earned you," Leo replied without sympathy. "Just as I have what mine have earned me." As security prepared to escort Vincent out, he made one final attempt. "Dana was the one who suggested targeting you, you know? She researched your company, your finances. She picked you because you seemed successful but distracted by work. An easy mark." Leo's expression hardened. "And yet, here we are. You might want to reconsider your choice of partners in the future, Vincent. Assuming you have a future outside of prison." After Vincent left, Leo called Roy Burnham. Vincent just left, desperate, looking for money. Want me to have someone follow him? Roy asked. Yes, and step up surveillance on Dana. She's getting more aggressive in her attempts to salvage something. That evening at dinner with Grace and Howard, Leo mentioned Vincent's visit, including the information about Dana and Russell. Are you sure Russell is trustworthy? Howard asked. Men have been compromised by less than Dana's attention. Leo nodded confidently. Russell has been recording every conversation. She's been trying to extract information about the company structure, my current projects, financial details, anything she could use. Grace frowned. Why is she still pursuing this? The divorce is final. The settlement was clear. Because Dana doesn't accept defeat, Leo explained. And because there's one major asset she still believes she might access. Howard's eyes widened with understanding. The trust. Exactly. She doesn't know the details, but she's heard rumors about my restructuring of the company ownership. She thinks there might be a way to claim a portion as marital property that wasn't properly disclosed during the divorce. Is there? Grace asked. Leo smiled. No, Howard made sure of that. The trust was established using funds that were explicitly excluded from marital assets in our prenuptial agreement. Dana has no legal claim whatsoever. Howard's dinner guest, a corporate art consultant named Marianne, had been listening with increasing interest. I hope you don't mind my asking, but it sounds like you've gone to extraordinary lengths to protect yourself from your ex-wife. Is she really that dangerous? Leo considered the question seriously. Not dangerous exactly, but Dana has spent her entire adult life cultivating an image and lifestyle that's now been stripped away. She's desperate to reclaim some part of it. And you're determined not to allow that, Marianne observed. I'm determined that everyone involved receives exactly what they've earned. No more, no less. Leo's tone made it clear the subject was closed. Later that night, as Leo drove home, he received a call from Russell. Dana reached out again, Russell reported. She wants to meet tomorrow. Says she has a proposition that could benefit everyone. Did she elaborate? No, but she seemed unusually confident. I think she believes she's found something. Leo thought for a moment. Accept the meeting. Record everything as usual. But be careful. A corner Dana is at her most creative. The next day brought the first real challenge to Leo's carefully constructed new life. At 10:43 a.m., he received an urgent call from Howard. Dana's filing a motion to reopen the divorce settlement, Howard said without preamble. She's claiming fraud and non-disclosure of assets. Leo frowned. On what grounds? She's alleging you had already planned a corporate restructuring and trust formation before the divorce was finalized, but deliberately concealed it to reduce her settlement. That's absurd. The restructuring was planned after the settlement negotiations were complete. I know that, but she's got a witness claiming otherwise. Leo's mind raced through the possibilities. Ooh, Brooke. The name hit Leo like a physical blow. Brooke, who had been living under his roof, apparently following his rules, working on her degree. Brooke, who had seemingly accepted her second chance with gratitude. Are you sure? Leo asked, his voice uncommonly strained. I've seen the affidavit, Howard confirmed. She claims she overheard you discussing the trust formation with me in January, weeks before the divorce was finalized in March. Leo closed his eyes, remembering. There had been a call with Howard in January, discussing hypothetical restructuring options. He'd been in his home office, door closed, but he hadn't considered that Brooke might have been listening. It's her word against ours, Leo said finally, and she has motivation to lie. Agreed. But complicates things. A judge might order discovery, which means detailed financial reviews, depositions. No, Leo interrupted. We're not doing that. It's time for the final move. What final move? The one I've been holding in reserve. Call you back in an hour. Leo ended the call and immediately dialed Roy Burnham. I need everything we have on Dana and Vincent's financial arrangements. All of it. And I need to access the Kingfisher protocol. There was a pause on the line. You're sure? Once that's initiated, there's no calling it back. I'm sure. Dana's made her final play. Time for mine. The Kingfisher Protocol was the codename Leo and Roy had given to the most devastating element of Leo's revenge plan. One so extreme that Leo had held it in reserve, hoping it would never be necessary. But Dana's attempt to reopen the divorce settlement using Brooke as a weapon had crossed the final line. Within the hour, Leo had assembled the key players in his strategy: Howard, Roy, Russell, and two forensic accountants who had been analyzing Vincent and Dana's financial activities for months. Dana's filed to reopen the divorce settlement, Leo explained to the group. She's using Brooke as a witness to claim I concealed assets during negotiation. Howard nodded. It's a weak case, but potentially messy. We're not fighting it conventionally, Leo replied. We're ending this permanently. He turned to the forensic accountants. What did you find? The lead accountant, Patricia Weber, opened her laptop. We've documented 57 instances of funds transferring from Vincent Riviera's business accounts to Dana Walcott's personal account between 2020 and 2022. Total amount, approximately $380,000. And the source of those funds? Leo prompted. Client payments for construction projects, many of which were never completed or were substandard. Essentially misdirected funds that should have gone to materials, permits, or subcontractors. Leo turned to Roy. And the connections to the other cases? Roy placed a folder on the table. Dana's fingerprints are all over Vincent's operation. She introduced him to at least 3 of the victims in the class action lawsuit. Her expertise was in identifying potential marks, affluent individuals who wouldn't scrutinize construction costs too closely. So she wasn't just Vincent's lover, Russell realized. She was his partner in the fraud. Exactly, Leo confirmed. Dana wasn't an innocent spouse caught up in Vincent's schemes. She was an active participant who had perfected the approach long before they targeted me. The only difference in my case was that she was already married to me, giving them even better access. Howard studied the documentation. This is more than enough for criminal charges against Dana. Conspiracy to commit fraud at minimum. Along with evidence that she was planning to use the same approach with other contractors after Vincent, Roy added, we have emails discussing potential clients they could target next. Leo rose and walked to the window, looking out at the city he had helped build. Here's what's going to happen. Howard, you'll contact the district attorney with all of this evidence. Roy, you'll provide the connection to the other victims so they can add Dana to their civil suit. Russell, you'll proceed with your meeting with Dana, but now you'll be wired with police listening. And Brooke? Howard asked quietly. Leo's expression hardened. If she's chosen to align herself with Dana, she'll share Dana's fate. Her affidavit will be shown as perjury, likely committed under Dana's influence. Whether that leads to charges against her will depend on the DA's discretion. As the meeting concluded and his team dispersed to execute the final phase of Leo's plan, Roy remained behind. This will destroy any chance of reconciliation with your children, he pointed out. Are you certain? Leo's gaze was unwavering. They destroyed that chance when they chose to see me as nothing but a resource to be exploited. I'm simply ensuring they understand the full cost of that choice. By nightfall, Dana Walcott had been arrested on multiple felony charges related to fraud and conspiracy. Her meeting with Russell had yielded recorded evidence of attempted corporate espionage and blackmail, as she had threatened to fabricate sexual harassment claims against him if he didn't provide confidential company information. Brooke, confronted with evidence that her affidavit contained demonstrable falsehoods, had broken down and admitted Dana had promised her a percentage of any additional settlement in exchange for her testimony. While she avoided criminal charges thanks to Howard's intervention, the perjury attempt ended any remaining relationship with her father. Tyler, upon learning of his mother and sister's arrest from his new job in Seattle, had called Leo in a rage, blaming him for the family's destruction. Leo had listened silently before responding with simple clarity. You had a family that loved you unconditionally. You chose to trade it for what you thought would be easy money. That choice has consequences. As Leo sat alone in his study that night, reviewing the day's events, he felt no triumph or joy, only a sense of completion. The architect in him recognized when a demolition was finished and the ground cleared for something new to be built. His phone buzzed with a text from Grace. It's done. Are you okay? Leo considered the question carefully before responding. I'm free. Chapter 8. Ashes and Foundations. The trial of Dana Walcott and Vincent Riviera became a minor sensation in the local press. The Denver Post dubbed it the renovation racket, complete with infographics showing how the pair had systematically defrauded clients over a 5-year period. Business journals cited it as a cautionary tale of trust and verification in contractor relationships. True crime podcasts dissected the psychological aspects of how Dana had selected targets while maintaining her facade as a respectable housewife. Throughout the media circus, Leo maintained his dignified silence, declining all interview requests and issuing only a brief statement through Howard. This matter is now in the hands of the justice system. Walcott Construction remains committed to integrity and excellence in all our projects. Behind this public persona, Leo was methodically reconstructing his life. The cabin renovation was finally completed according to his original vision. Not Dana's showcase for impressing social connections, but a comfortable retreat where he could think and create. He had resumed his passion for architectural design, personally drafting plans for an affordable housing project the company was undertaking in partnership with the city. On a blustery October afternoon, a month after Dana's arrest, Leo received an unexpected visitor at his office. Maureen buzzed through. "Mr. Walcott, your son is here. He doesn't have an appointment." Leo paused, considering his options. "Send him in." Tyler entered cautiously, looking both defiant and uncertain. The past months in Seattle had changed him. His designer clothes replaced by practical workwear, his carefully styled hair now shorter and simpler. "Hello, Tyler," Leo said neutrally. "What brings you back to Denver?" Tyler remained standing, hands thrust in his jacket pockets. "Mom's trial date has been set. December 16th. I'm aware. Are you going to testify against her?" Leo leaned back in his chair. "If required by the prosecution, yes." Tyler's jaw tightened, even knowing she could get up to 10 years. "The potential sentence reflects the seriousness of her crimes," Leo replied evenly. "Crimes that extended far beyond her betrayal of our marriage. She's still my mother." "Yes, and that relationship is between you and her, just as what remains of our relationship is between you and me." Tyler finally sank into the chair across from Leo's desk. "That's actually why I came. To talk about us." Leo studied his son carefully, noting the calluses on his hands, the new lines around his eyes. "I'm listening. I've been working for Thomas Blake for 8 months now. Started at the bottom, literally digging foundations and hauling materials. It's been educational. Thomas says you've shown promise, that you're working harder than any other junior team member." Tyler looked surprised. "You've been keeping tabs on me?" "Of course. You're still my son, regardless of our current relationship." Something in Tyler's posture shifted, a slight relaxation of his defensive stance. "I've learned a lot. About construction. About what it takes to build something that lasts." He met Leo's gaze directly. "About what you built here, and how hard it must have been." Leo remained silent, waiting. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Tyler continued. "I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away, what I was too entitled to appreciate. And I'm sorry, truly sorry." "Why tell me this now?" Leo asked. "Because your mother is facing prison? Because you need something?" Tyler shook his head. "Because it's true, and because life's too short for regrets you never expressed." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Here, this is for you." Leo accepted the envelope but didn't open it. "What is this?" "Every penny you gave me for the Seattle start. Rent, living expenses, everything. I've been saving for my paychecks. It's all there with interest." Leo stared at the envelope, unexpectedly moved by this tangible evidence of his son's transformation. "This wasn't necessary." "Yes, it was. For me, if not for you." Tyler stood, preparing to leave. "I'm not asking to come back, Dad. I know that bridge is burned. I just wanted you to know that I finally understand what you try to teach me my whole life. About earning what you have. About integrity." As Tyler reached the door, Leo called after him. "Will you be staying in Denver long?" "Just until after Mom's trial. I've taken a week off." Tyler hesitated. "Thomas has offered me a permanent position. Junior project manager. I'm going to take it." Leo nodded. Seattle's a good market. Lots of growth potential. That's what Thomas said. Tyler opened the door, then paused again. For what it's worth, I respect what you did. Not just the revenge, though that was something to behold, but rebuilding afterward. Starting over. It takes strength. After Tyler left, Leo sat holding the envelope, turning it over in his hands. The gesture represented something he hadn't expected: accountability. His son had chosen to make amends in a small but meaningful way. It wasn't forgiveness Leo felt. The betrayal ran too deep for that, but perhaps a recognition that Tyler was no longer the entitled young man who had plotted against him. Whether this change would last, only time would tell. But it was a start. That evening, Leo drove to Grace's house for their weekly dinner. As they prepared the meal together, a ritual they had established after the divorce, he told her about Tyler's visit. "That's surprising," she said, chopping vegetables for a salad. "In a good way, I think." Leo nodded, focusing on the pasta sauce he was stirring. "It was unexpected. He's changed. People can," Grace replied, "when circumstances force them to. The question is whether the change is genuine or simply adaptive." Grace studied her brother's profile. "What do you think?" "I think he's experienced actual consequences for the first time in his life. That changes perspective." "And Brooke?" Leo's expression darkened. "Brooke made her choice when she agreed to perjure herself for Dana. That shows a fundamental character issue that goes beyond immaturity." Grace sighed. "She's young, Leo, influenced by her mother, and frankly, scared of facing life without the support she's always counted on. Tyler's young too. He chose differently. After you gave him a structured opportunity," Grace pointed out. "A job connection, startup money, a clear path forward. Brooke was left to figure it out on her own." Leo turned to face his sister. "Are you suggesting I've been unfair to Brooke?" "I'm suggesting that different people need different kinds of accountability. Tyler responds to structure and clear expectations. Brooke might need something else." Leo considered this as they finished preparing dinner. Grace had always been his moral compass, the person who challenged his thinking without judging his actions. It was one of the reasons he valued their relationship so deeply. As they ate, the conversation shifted to business and Grace's recent promotion at her financial firm. But Leo's thoughts kept returning to his children, the two people who, despite everything, remained connected to him by blood if not by trust. Later that week, Leo received a call from Howard with an update on Dana's case. "The prosecutor is offering a plea deal," Howard informed him. 7 years with possibility of parole after 4, in exchange for testimony against Vincent and 2 other contractors they worked with before him. Is she taking it? Her attorney is pushing for it. Without the deal, she's looking at 10 to 15, given the multiple counts and the amount involved. Leo processed this information dispassionately. And Vincent, no deal offered yet. With his prior record and the scale of the fraud, they're aiming for maximum impact. After ending the call, Leo sat in his study, contemplating the human cost of his revenge. Dana would likely spend years in prison. Vincent faced even longer incarceration. Tyler was rebuilding his life 3 states away. Brooke was... Leo realized he didn't actually know what Brooke was doing now. After her perjury attempt had been exposed, she had moved out of his house without a word, leaving no forwarding address. On impulse, Leo called Roy Burnham. "I need you to locate someone for me. Brooke, I want to know where she is, what she's doing. Checking up on her?" Roy asked. "Something like that." 2 days later, Roy delivered a concise report. Brooke had moved in with Dana's sister temporarily, then found a studio apartment she could barely afford. She was working 2 jobs, still at the coffee shop, plus weekend shifts at a clothing store in the mall. She had withdrawn from her online classes due to inability to pay tuition. "She's struggling," Roy concluded, "but surviving. No contact with Dana since the arrest, according to the phone records." Leo thanked him and ended the call, then sat contemplating this information. Grace's words echoed in his mind. Different people need different kinds of accountability. The next morning, Leo drove to the coffee shop where Brooke worked. He parked across the street, watching as she served customers with mechanical efficiency, her face drawn and tired. She looked older than her 21 years, The entitled college girl replaced by a young woman facing harsh reality. After an hour, Leo entered the shop and joined the line. When he reached the counter, Brooke froze, coffee pot in hand, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and defiance. "One black coffee," Leo said quietly. Brooke mechanically filled a cup and pushed it toward him. $3.75. Leo handed her a $5 bill. "Keep the change. I don't need your charity," she said, voice low but intense. "It's a tip, not charity. For services rendered." Leo took his coffee and moved to a table in the corner, opening his laptop as if he had come to work. Throughout her shift, he felt Brooke's eyes on him periodically, but he never looked up. He simply worked, occasionally sipping his coffee. When her shift ended 3 hours later, Leo closed his laptop and stood to leave. Brooke approached him, her expression guarded. "Why are you here?" "I wanted to see how you were doing." "Why? So you can enjoy seeing me struggle?" "Another part of your perfect revenge." Leo shook his head. "No, because despite everything, I still care what happens to you." Brooke laughed bitterly. "Right. That's why you cut me off completely after Mom's arrest. You gave false testimony in an attempt to help her take more of what I've earned," Leo pointed out. "Actions have consequences, Brooke. That's the lesson in all of this." "So what now? You see me serving coffee and making minimum wage. Mission accomplished." Leo studied his daughter's face, Dana's cheekbones, his own eyes, currently filled with hurt and anger. "Have dinner with me. Not to reconcile, not to fix anything. Just to talk." Brooke hesitated, suspicion warring with curiosity. "Why should I?" "Because you've lost one parent to prison. It seems unnecessary to lose both, regardless of blame." That evening, they sat across from each other at a modest restaurant near Brooke's apartment. The conversation was stilted at first, carefully avoiding mention of Dana or the legal proceedings. Instead, Leo asked about Brooke's work, her apartment, her plans. "Plans?" Brooke repeated with a hollow laugh. "I'm barely making rent. Planning means figuring out which bill to pay first." "You stopped your classes?" Leo observed. "Couldn't afford them. Turns out education is expensive when you're actually paying for it yourself." Leo nodded, acknowledging the barb. "What would you do if money weren't an issue?" Brooke looked surprised by the question. "Finish my degree, I guess. I was actually enjoying my marketing classes before." She trailed off. "Before the truth came out," Leo finished for her. Brooke stared at her plate. "Before everything fell apart." "Things fall apart when they're built on false foundations," Leo said. "That's as true in relationships as it is in construction." "Is that why you're here? To deliver more life lessons about consequences?" "No, I'm here because Grace suggested I might have been applying the wrong kind of accountability to you." Leo set down his fork. Tyler responds to structure, clear expectations, and professional opportunity. "What do you respond to, Brooke?" The question seemed to catch her off guard. I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do. What motivates you? What makes you want to be better, do better?" Brooke considered this seriously, perhaps for the first time. "Recognition, I guess. Validation." She looked up at him. "That sounds pathetic, doesn't it?" "It sounds human," Leo replied. "We all need different things. Tyler needs to prove himself through tangible achievement. You need to know your efforts matter to someone." "But I betrayed you," Brooke said quietly. "I lied about you for money." "Yes, you did." Leo's voice was matter-of-fact, without anger. "And that hurt more deeply than you can imagine. But I'm beginning to understand that what you did wasn't just about money. It was about choosing the parent who had always given you validation, even if it was based on manipulation." Tears filled Brooke's eyes. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I've had a lot of time to think about everything." "And what have you concluded?" "That I don't like who I was becoming, who Mom encouraged me to be." Brooke wiped her eyes with her napkin. "That the easy path isn't usually the right one." Leo nodded, seeing a glimmer of genuine insight in his daughter's words. "I have a proposition for you." Brooke looked wary. "What kind of proposition?" "Return to school. Complete your degree. I'll pay the tuition directly to the university." "Why would you do that?" "After what I did." "Because education is never wasted, even on those who have made poor choices." Leo held up a hand as Brooke began to speak. "But there are conditions." You maintain a 3.5 GPA or higher. You continue working part-time to cover your living expenses. You provide me with regular updates on your progress. And you commit to complete honesty, regardless of how difficult the truth might be. Brooks studied him, searching for the catch. That's it? No public apology? No groveling? I don't want your humiliation, Brooke. I want your growth. Leo's expression was serious. This isn't forgiveness. It's an investment in who you might become, separate from who you were or what your mother taught you to be. As they finished dinner, Leo watched his daughter carefully. She was thinking, weighing his offer against her pride, her hurt, her uncertain future. I need time to think about it, she finally said. Take a week, Leo replied. Then let me know your decision. 6 days later, Leo received a text from Brooke. I accept your conditions. Thank you for the opportunity. It wasn't reconciliation. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was perhaps a beginning of something new from the ashes of what had been destroyed. Like the foundation of a building, it would need time, attention, and careful work to determine if it could support anything of lasting value. Chapter 9. Steel and Stone. Winter arrived early in Denver, bringing with it the first anniversary of that fateful Christmas eavesdropping that had changed everything. Leo marked the occasion not with bitterness, but with quiet reflection, sitting alone in his cabin as snow fell outside the window. The past year had taught him more about himself than the previous 5 decades combined. He had discovered his capacity for calculated ruthlessness, yes, but also his resilience and ability to rebuild from total devastation. Most surprisingly, he had discovered that moving forward didn't require forgiveness. It simply required clarity about what mattered now. Dana had accepted the prosecutor's plea deal and begun serving her 7-year sentence at the Women's Correctional Facility in Pueblo. Vincent's trial had concluded with a 15-year sentence, his multiple prior fraud convictions finally catching up with him. The class action plaintiffs had been awarded substantial damages, though collecting them from Vincent's non-existent assets remained problematic. Tyler had thrived under Thomas Blake's mentorship in Seattle, earning a promotion to full project manager after demonstrating unexpected talent for client relations and budget management. He and Leo spoke monthly, brief, careful conversations focused primarily on business matters, but occasionally touching on personal growth and lessons learned. Brooke had returned to school with surprising determination, exceeding Leo's GPA requirement and securing an internship with a marketing firm for the upcoming summer. Their relationship remained formal, but not cold, defined by clear expectations and boundaries rather than the unquestioning trust that had been shattered. As for Leo himself, the company continued to prosper under Russell's leadership, allowing Leo to focus on the architectural work that had been his first love. The affordable housing project was nearing completion, its innovative design already drawing attention from urban planners nationwide. His personal life had evolved as well. After months of Howard's persistence, Leo had finally agreed to a proper dinner with Marianne, the art consultant. Their connection had been unexpected but welcome. 2 adults with established lives finding common ground in their appreciation for design, their direct communication styles, and their lack of illusions about relationships. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after the revelation that had transformed his life, Leo hosted a small gathering at the main house. The guests included Grace and her husband, Howard and his wife, Russell and his family, Roy, and, most significantly, Tyler and Brooke. It wasn't a reconciliation in the traditional sense. Leo had made it clear to his children that trust, once broken, could not simply be restored through time or words. But it was an acknowledgement that they were all still connected, still family, in some fundamental way that transcended betrayal and consequences. As they gathered around the dining table, a new one Leo had designed and built himself from reclaimed timber, he surveyed the faces of those present. These were the people who had either stood by him during his darkest moments or who were working to earn back some place in his life. The contrast with last year's false gathering could not have been more stark. Before we eat, Leo said, rising to his feet, I'd like to say something. The table fell silent, all eyes turning to him. A year ago, my life was built on illusions, a marriage I thought was solid, children I believed respected me, a future that seemed secure. When those illusions shattered, I had a choice: to break along with them or to use that broken foundation to build something stronger. He paused, looking at Tyler and Brooke in turn. What I built was not perfect. My methods were not always gentle, but they were honest as the steel and stone that form the structures we create. Leo raised his glass. To clarity, to consequences, and to the strength that comes from building on truth, however painful it may be. As glasses clinked around the table, Leo caught Brooke's eye. She looked away first, but not before he saw the recognition in her gaze, understanding that his toast acknowledged not just his own journey, but hers as well. Later, as guests mingled in the living room, Tyler approached Leo by the fireplace. "I have news," he said quietly. "Thomas is opening a second office in Portland. He's asked me to help establish it." Leo nodded. "That's a significant responsibility. I'll be partnering with his son, managing the operation together." Tyler hesitated. "I'd like your advice on how to approach it." For a moment, Leo was transported back to Tyler's childhood, to those rare moments when his son had sought his guidance rather than just his resources. "I'll be happy to share what I know." As they discussed business strategies and market considerations, Leo realized that this professional respect, this acknowledgement of his expertise, was perhaps the most genuine connection he and Tyler could rebuild. Not the unconditional love that had been exploited, but a relationship based on earned respect and shared knowledge. Across the room, Marianne was deep in conversation with Brooke about the marketing firm where she'd be interning. Leo watched as his daughter listened intently, asking thoughtful questions, a far cry from the entitled young woman who had dismissed his professional insights as boring and irrelevant. Grace appeared at his side, following his gaze. "She's trying, Leo. They both are." "I know," he replied. "That counts for something. But not everything." Leo considered this. Trust is like structural integrity, Grace. Once compromised, you can shore it up, reinforce it, even rebuild sections entirely. But you always know where the weakness was. You never stop monitoring it. Grace squeezed his arm. "Fair enough. But buildings can stand for centuries, even with repaired foundations." "Some can," Leo agreed, "if the repair work is done properly, if the materials are sound, if the commitment to maintenance never wavers." As the evening progressed, Leo found himself in a moment of unexpected peace. The betrayal that had defined the past year had not vanished. It had been transformed into something else, a hard-won wisdom about people, about love, about the true nature of strength. He had not forgiven Dana and never would. Her calculated exploitation of his love and trust was unforgivable, particularly given her continued attempts to manipulate others against him even after being exposed. Vincent would remain a cautionary tale about wolves in contractors' clothing. And his children were works in progress, their ultimate place in his life yet to be determined by their actions rather than their words. But standing in his rebuilt home, surrounded by people who had proven their worth through loyalty or genuine effort to change, Leo Walcott knew he had succeeded in the most important architectural project of his life, reconstructing himself from the foundation up, stronger and more honest than before. The smile he wore now was no mask, no performance maintained for the sake of those who sought to use him. It was the expression of a man who had faced betrayal with clarity rather than denial, who had responded with justice rather than weakness, and who had emerged not unscathed but unbroken. As midnight approached and Christmas Day began, Leo stepped outside onto the deck, breathing in the crisp winter air. The stars above were brilliant against the dark sky, their light traveling across unimaginable distances to reach him. He thought about time, about consequences, about the journey from that moment of devastating revelation to this point of hard-earned peace. He had lost the family he thought he had, but he had gained something perhaps more valuable: the truth. About them, about himself, about what he was capable of when pushed to his limits. And that truth, unlike the lies that had preceded it, would serve as a foundation that would never crumble beneath him again. And there you have it, Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.